Some of the content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely it's really
just I love stories like this because it's
people scared to death.
Yeah,
that's a real thing.
There are countless stories that you shouldn't fuck with.
Right, and the JFK assassination all to real.
From the mistake on the lake, deep within the great American Rust Belt, this is T3TV. I'm your host, John Lazinski, alongside Dan Rady.
What is up?
And Steve Buddha Gibson.
I am also Dan Rady.
Back to you in the studio, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
You should be so lucky.
How you guys doing this week?
Pretty good.
Feeling kind of run down this week. I've been falling asleep super early, like every night.
Really? Like
Most
what time?
Go to sleep.
Dude, I've been falling asleep like 8 o'clock every night.
Wow. You know, I get up for work at I get up at 4:30, kind of snooze until like 5, and so I'm going to bed around like somewhere between 8:30 and 9. On a wild and crazy night, it'll be 10 o'clock. So, but so yeah. Well, you think you're getting sick or?
No, I don't feel sick at all. I think I'm just tired. Just quality of sleep has just been garbage.
I've been having like terrible nightmares lately. Like last night I had a dream. I used to be in printing and I'm since switched careers, but I had a dream that like I misprinted like a ton of shirts and I woke up like, oh shit. For a second I felt real. And then I had a dream a couple weeks ago that I was like flunking out of senior year. I'm like, I haven't been, I'm going on 20 years graduated. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
I don't think I ever dreamt of school once, ever.
Never? I used to have dreams
Never.
about work when I was a busboy, like when I was like 15. We used to bus tables, and I just had these dreams where like the restaurant was never clean. It was just an endless feedback loop of tables that needed to be bussed. But so, all right. So it's got some news tonight. Here's an interesting one. Not only a local story, but also making the national headlines. I don't know if you guys saw this. Baker Mayfield saw a UFO on last night. He posted around 11:40 p.m. From his Twitter account. Says almost 100%. Em and I just saw a UFO drop straight out of the sky on our way home from dinner. We stopped and looked at each other and asked if either of us saw it. Very bright ball of light going straight down out of the sky towards Lake Travis. Anybody else witnessed this? So it was actually on the Coast to Coast website and a couple other things. I think I also saw it on Google Sports today. But Baker Mayfield now a viewer of UFOs.
Did not hear that one.
No.
Got to keep them Browns relevant.
Good publicity stunt, I guess. Boo, this one here's for you. Diablo 2, new story I read just recently, will let you import your 20-year-old save files.
Dude,
Damn.
that's actually pretty sweet.
Have you heard that yet?
No, but remember I talked about it last week where they're literally, it is the same game. Like it is same engine, same everything. It's just being overlaid. So That's why it gives you the option to actually play the original game, which that's actually really cool that they're going to give you the option to import your old saves. How many people still have them is the better question.
Yeah, it's
dude,
funny.
If I dug through my hard drives, I know they're on there.
Yeah, it says Blizzard wasn't kidding. This is from TheVerge.com. It says Blizzard wasn't kidding when they told Polygon that the new remastered Diablo 2 will be faithful to the original. You'll even be able to pick up where you left off with your 20-year-old save games. So,
wow.
But yeah. I just remember you guys used to, and I know my brother would do it with you guys, but he'd lure people into duels and then jump them and steal all their stuff.
I would not do that. I am not an asshole.
Still pretty funny.
It is pretty. That happened to me a bunch of times. But
you got jumped virtually. All right. So in other news, Dan, this one here is for you. Well, I got two here. One says from Jeep Boss says he's willing to ditch the Cherokee name.
Yes.
Must be part of what's going on with other things right now in the world, but interesting that they are going to consider changing that. I don't know.
Yeah, they initially, I've been reading up on that. The Cherokee name, that goes back to 1974 with Jeep, when American Motors owned Jeeps. That name's been around forever with Cherokee, but I guess initially they said, Jeep initially said Stellantis, which is the name of the corporation that owns Jeep now, which a terrible fucking name, Stellantis. Sounds like some kind of Viagra pill. But anyway, they said that initially they said, no, we have no interest in it. We decline. We're not going to change the name. And then all of a sudden something happened and they said, oh, well, we're open to listening into possibly, looking into maybe changing the name, because Grand Cherokee and Cherokee, I mean, those names, they have so much brand equity in those names. That's a big undertaking to try to change those brand names.
Right. And so, I guess with the way the world's going right now, people are looking at all kinds of things. So,
yep.
All right. And so another GM news, I know that you're a GM connoisseur. It says GM is close to building a second EV battery factory in the U.S., report says. This is from TheVerge.com as well. Dude, The Verge is serving up all kinds of news for us today. But anyway, so I guess they already have one in the U.S. you know about. And they're working with GM at a battery factory in northern Ohio, actually. So,
yeah, I think it's in conjunction with LG Chem.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think Chem.
So,
not
Chem.
Chem.
I'm sorry, not Chem. Chem. Yeah, Chem. Chem. Is it Chem?
Oh my goodness.
I sound real intelligent. I can't even say the damn word right. But yeah, LG Chem, they already have the batteries. They want to go electric by 2035, and the battery, they already have cars that are ready to come out here in the next couple of years that are going to be battery operated. So,
well, yeah, and I guess you're going to need the infrastructure, so they're getting pretty aggressive, it looks like. So,
oh yeah.
All right, last one here that I thought would kind of spike a little interest here. Space Hotel aims to open in 2027. And so it looks like they're looking to build a hotel in low Earth orbit. It'll accommodate approximately 400 people and spread throughout 24 habitation. I don't freaking know. I'm hanging out with you too much. So I see you on Friday, and I can't speak. The ring-shaped space station will measure 650 feet in diameter and reside in low Earth orbit. Will rotate in a manner that will generate gravity similar to found on the moon. So, would you try to go up in one of those and stay a night in there? Would you do it?
How
you talking to me? Hell no.
How long is the trip? I'm just curious, travel time.
I don't know. I didn't read the article fully. I just read the headline, like most readers of the news. But they're looking to have it open in 2027. I don't even know how they would get somebody up there.
Well, I mean, that's something that Tesla's been talking about for a while too. Just being able to do it as on a personal level. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You don't need the giant corporations or the federal funding or anything like that. I mean, look at Tesla. They're literally putting shit in space, and he's a private company.
Right.
But
so, yeah.
I guess my best answer, it would be a crazy experience, but don't be on the maiden voyage.
And just in case you were wondering how much it's going to cost, for a 3.5 day visit to this space resort, it'll be $5 million. So.
Oh, well, then I'm sure people are signing up right away.
What's even nobody's gonna be able to go to it.
I'm sorry, I missed. Where is it going to be at again? Other than space, I know space is going to be like a space station type thing.
Hey Dan, I don't think that there's a fucking country floating out in space that you can be like, that's where we're going.
Well, and second of all, we talked before the show about listening to each other, and you're not even doing it. Yes, it'll be in low Earth orbit. It's a ring. It kind of looks like a steering wheel.
Hang on, Dan. They're gonna go to the one fucking hotel in space. That's where they're gonna go.
Listen, you fucking asshole. I'm asking John.
All right, so that's it for the news tonight and that debauchery. Dan, over to you with the discussion on H.H. Holmes.
All right. Well, okay. So have either one of you heard of H.H. Holmes?
Yes, several times.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So this was obviously, as I was saying before, this is a story that I wrote up, or not story, but I researched it and wrote this up back when we first did the show, and we didn't finish this one. This one didn't get actually put up. So I just wanted to go ahead. I think this is a great story about this guy. He's a real lunatic, or was a real lunatic at what he did, and the planning that went behind it's amazing. So I'm going to start reading this here. If you have any questions, stop me. But so H.H. Holmes was born Herman Webster Mudgett on May 16th, 1861. He studied medicine and enrolled in the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery, where Holmes would go on to graduate and pass all exams. He moved around quite a bit, in each city, very strangely, somebody would die or disappear, and there would always be some sort of connection to Holmes. He had an odd interest in dead bodies and dissection of them that stemmed early on. Holmes finally made his way to Chicago, where he got a job in a drugstore and would go on to eventually purchase it. It was during this time that he also purchased an empty lot across the street and would have the construction start of his new building. Being a slick con man, he was able to get financial help from investors to build, his new building by telling them that this would be a hotel for the upcoming World Columbian Exposition, and that it would contain stores and apartments. Holmes would change builders frequently so that they would not suspect his plans for it, as he had some very strange requests. His murder castle, as it became known, was completed in 1892, and almost immediately people would start disappearing within the walls of it. Most were women that were employees of Holmes and that worked in the building. Some were guests staying in one of the apartments. The arrest of H.H. Holmes in Boston 2 years after the opening of his murder mansion in 1894 was not actually due to any murder or disappearance. He was arrested for theft and financial schemes that included defrauding insurance companies and arson, among many other things. Once police entered the building, they would discover torture chambers, rooms filled with gas fixtures, bathrooms with trap doors, false partitions, hinged walls, large laundry chutes where he would send the body down to the basement, rooms and staircases that led to nowhere. All of the doors, and this is amazing, all of the doors and some of the steps were connected to an alarm system. So whenever somebody stepped into the hall or headed downstairs, a buzzer sounded in Holmes's bedroom where he could pull a lever or hit a switch and gas or trap his victims. Basically, gas or trap his victims. The basement contained a crematorium, acid vats, and quicklime to dispose of and disintegrate the bodies, plus medical tools and a torture device. Here is where Holmes would dissect his victims and sell their organs and other remains to medical institutions on the black market. There were piles of bones, both animal and human, blood-soaked tables. There were 9 confirmed deaths at the hands of Holmes, both in the castle and elsewhere. Holmes himself stated there were 27. Some people say there's closer to 200, but that hasn't been confirmed, people that he killed. He was sentenced to death by hanging, knowing full well that what could be done to a dead body. He requested that his casket be encased in cement and buried 10 feet deep, which was done. Holmes was executed on May 7th, 1896. Holmes' neck would not snap right away. Instead, he was slowly strangled and would not die for at least 15 minutes. And then finally, as far as the murder castle, it was gutted by fire in 1895, but it was rebuilt and used until the late 30s, when it was finally then tore down. Today, a post office sits on the site where the murder castle was, and it wasn't really a castle per se. It was pretty much a commercial-looking building that you saw in the late 1800s, early 1900s. But just a fascinating story. There's a little bit more to it. Obviously, for time restraints, I'm not going to go over everything, but we're just an unbelievable. Hollywood couldn't make something up that good, I don't think.
Yeah, I've listened to a bunch of different shows and podcasts and all kinds of stuff on this, but it kind of reminded me, and I don't know if there was any inspiration for the movie The People Under the Stairs. Did you ever see that Wes Craven movie?
No, I did not.
Very, like, it reminded me of that, and so where, yeah, it was just, I've read too that, like, in the house there was doors, but when they'd open the door, there was actually a door to nothing. It was meant, to psych people out as well. And the fact that, like you said, he hired people and kind of abruptly ended their contracts so that, nobody could
wonder
connect.
what the hell was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That's why he did it. Yeah, because I mean, obviously his requests were so weird, but then he would stop, and then he'd bring more people in, and they wouldn't question it, and that's the reason it was built up. But the planning that went into that,
And
It almost sounds like not planning, just like this dude just had whims of certain shit that he wanted to try at certain times. So he's like, oh man, I was totally thinking, like, go ahead and finish up that room that you're building, but it'd be really cool if you put a trap door in this other room over here. And then, like, the next week he's like, what if we had a fucking door that went to nowhere, but when you walk in, the door behind you just locks and then it fills with gas? Like, they're so erratic that you're just like, did this guy really lay all this out? Like, was he that fucking twisted? Or was he literally like just bouncing off the walls with all these crazy ideas?
And didn't he do most of the killing of people around the fair? Like, didn't he he would get fair goers to come back, or people that would stay? Didn't he advertise it also as a hotel too?
Yes, he did. I have to look back in the research. I don't know that I think he was already arrested by the time the fair came around. I think.
Well, I remember it being told, like how you're talking, John, where it was like, I don't know about the fair, but like it being used as a hotel. Like, I remember it being called like the Murder Hotel or the Murder Castle, like about people that were just going there to spend the night, and then they end up just getting killed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he actually got people during the hotels, but yeah, I'm looking at pictures of it now. Even just before, it was like more of a 3 or 4 story building, it looks like, and now it's looks just like a 2-story post office, like you were saying. On Wikipedia, there's also drawings of it, and it looks like there's a snippet from a newspaper here. I can't bring it up, but yeah, he appeared in. Let's see. It says here he was also in July of 1894. He was arrested and briefly jailed for the first time on the charge of selling mortgage goods in Missouri. Boy, if they had not just let him out, probably, like, you got to think about things like that.
Didn't he
too.
get busted for like tax fraud, or it was something stupid, and like that's how he ended up getting caught?
Yeah, insurance fraud, I believe.
Insurance fraud. Okay, I knew it was something.
Yeah.
It was something just totally unrelated.
Right. Which I was saying, that's how he got arrested, and then they went and checked the place out. My question is, talking the late 1800s, what kind of alarm system connected to an alarm system? I mean, what could that have consisted of?
A string tied to a bell.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
when this is gonna sound terrible, but I just, how much electricity was actually readily available at that time?
Yeah, very little.
But
yeah,
I'm trying to find here when he was. It says Holmes' murder spree finally ended in Boston on November 17th, 1894, after being tracked from from Philadelphia by the Pinkertons. He was held for an outstanding warrant for horse theft in Texas. As authorities had become more suspicious at this point, Holmes had appeared poised to flee the country in the company of his unsuspecting third wife. So, but yeah, crazy story.
Grand Theft Horse.
Yeah. And what city was this in again? Was this in New York?
You mean where the
hotel was? Or was
that was in Chicago?
Oh, it was in Chicago. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this guy he had a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
Death by hanging.
I mean, amazing.
can-
It's amazing in a terrible way.
It says details: victims 9 confirmed, confessed 27, but suspected to be 200 in total.
Yep. Right, but they couldn't prove the 200 mark. So that's what I said in the story too. But think about that. I mean, how many more people that guy? Because he went to other towns and people would disappear mysteriously in other towns where he was at, even before he got the hotel.
Looking here too. In his confession after his arrest, Holmes claimed that he had killed his former medical school classmate Robert Leacock in 1886 for insurance money. Leacock, however, died in Waterford, Ontario, in Canada on October 5th, 1889. In late 1886, while still married to Clara, Holmes married Myra Belknap in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He filed for divorce from Clara a few weeks after marrying Myrta, alleging infidelity on her part. Oh, man. What a nutcase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but, all right. Well, I mean, again, interesting story. Not much, I mean, goes down in the record books along with some of the other infamous serial murders of that time. You know, that you got to think, there was another guy, his name was, I think, Albert Fish or Hal Fish. It was right around the same time. Yeah, Albert, yeah, he was a...
I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah, this was around in his first mugshot was in 1903, but yeah, he killed people, and he died by the electric chair in 1936. But turn of the century, a lot of this stuff went down. You know, how many people actually were doing this stuff? You know,
Sure, you get away with it easy.
Wasn't this dude like I could be thinking incorrectly, but wasn't he like an influence for the Sweeney Todd stuff, or was that somebody else?
who Fish?
No, Holmes.
That I don't.
That
know.
I don't know. I don't know either.
I could be totally wrong. Just kind of scatterbrain with that topic, but I thought I remember hearing something about that, but who knows? I could be totally wrong.
So,
But I mean,
We're not fucking
like I
experts.
said. Yeah, right. I mean, but still, it's Hollywood. Like I said, could not make something better than this. And when you think about when this happened, when this guy put this together, it's incredible. Late 1800s to think of all this stuff.
right. All right, Buddha, what you got?
All right, so I've been listening. I just been kind of getting kind of burned out on like the audiobook stuff, and I just kind of need a break. So I've been listening to this podcast channel on heists, and it's actually narrated by Michael Caine. It's pretty interesting, and this one, which I don't know how I never heard of this, the Diamond Heist in Antwerp, and that's basically a city. It's an area in Belgium, which essentially is the diamond district, and that's just where like all the diamond traders go for either just business, to make jewels, to source the diamonds. It's just like, a jewelry district in this area, and that's it's essentially the main hub. So this dude, Leonardo Notarbartolo, was a guy from Italy, and he was a jeweler, but he kind of had like a little bit of a rap sheet. He decides he's going to go to Antwerp, rent a building there, and then essentially tell them it's a business, but he's actually going to be casing out the vault for where they store, not only all the diamonds and gems and whatnot, but it's just also full of, private citizens can store all their gold and jewelry and any valuables that you have, really. So this dude goes there, and in order to get a spot in the vault, you have to go through like a rigorous background check. Like I couldn't just walk in there and say, I want a box, I want to put my stuff in here. Like, so you have to be essentially vetted. So this dude, he goes, rents this building, and it's like in the same building as the vault, and he just never puts any effort into making it look like he has a business. He essentially just hangs out in his office to try to make like past time, just so that he can periodically go down, check the vault. And at this point, he's just casing everything out. He wants to see how high tech it is. He wants to see, is there a guard rotation? How much surveillance do they have? Like, what do they actually have in this vault? And, he doesn't know exactly what's in there, but he has a general idea, which is obviously why this has become the area that he wants to hit. And this heist to me is kind of crazy. It's kind of like an Ocean's 11 type thing. So fast forward, this has been going on for 2 years, and he's just been getting as much information as possible about this place. Now, every lockbox in this vault has not only a key, but also a combination lock. The door is like a specialized door. I think they said it's about a foot thick. It requires a four number combination as well as a key, but the key is broken in 2 halves. So you have to have both halves of the key and the combination in order to open the door. Once you get inside the door, it has a magnetic alarm. So once the magnets break, it sends, a signal to the alarm company, and then they can alert whoever. It has a thermal sensor, so they can detect heat. It has a motion sensor. It has a light sensor. And if any of those are tripped, it's going to signal, something to the alarm company just to let them know something is wrong. On top of that, there are guards. It's manned, and it also has 24-hour surveillance. So keep that in mind. So he essentially does this for 2 years and just works out every angle. They hide a camera above the safe door just to see any kind of rotation that they may have. He, finds what would be the easiest way to get in this place, as all the doors require a key code or a key card to get in. So he does this for about 2 years, and then he goes back to Italy and rounds up his group of guys, and there's 5 guys, and for some reason, the names really aren't that important, but Leonardo was essentially the mastermind of this whole thing. The other guys kind of had like aliases, but I guess you could call them nicknames, like
Donatello,
the King of Keys.
Michelangelo, and Raphael.
Yes. So it was Speedy, the Monster, the Genius, the King of Keys. Like, this is kind of like, it sounds like a fucking terrible B movie.
That or like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah. Yes. So he goes back and he kind of rounds up his crew and he says, all right, this is the plan. This is the information that we got. We're going to go and rob this place. And they're waiting to find like a specific time, what would be the best day. So they chose the weekend of February 15th and 16th in 2003. Now, some of the stuff that I read, this was like one of the partners or owners of this building. I guess his daughter was getting married, so they assumed that a ton of the people were going to be out from the building. I can't confirm that anywhere else, but take that for what it's worth. So just go into this knowing the building was chosen, the date was chosen to hit the building at this point because it was what they figured would be the most empty. They decided to go through the garage because they found out that's the only door that doesn't need a key card. So once they get in, prior to that, they also found out that although this is under 24-hour surveillance, it's not actually a manned surveillance. So they're just recording video, but no one is actually watching the cameras. So at this point, once he's taken the 2 years to kind of see how everything works, it's actually incredibly flawed. So in order for them to go, they get in, they go through the garage door because, like I said, they don't need a key card. Prior to them doing this, once Leonardo was down in the vault, he walks past the one of the thermal imaging sensors and just with a wave sprays it with hairspray. So he knocks the imaging sensor out. So that's gone. They decide that when they go in, prior to this as well, when he found a time to be alone in the vault, he actually taped the magnetic sensors together, but then unscrewed them and set them aside and taped them to the wall. So for a time leading up to this, the magnetic sensors were actually taken apart and they were still closed, so the alarm company still had the correct signal, but the alarm actually wasn't in place because he had already moved it off the door. Number 2 is gone. So they're in the door, and they had actually made keys for this, allegedly. But they also found out that because this key is freaking huge, because the door is like a foot thick, the concierge that worked there decided it would make more sense to not actually split the key up in halves and keep it together, and then also keep it together in the same room as the vault. So number 3 has now been disarmed. So they have the key. The one thing that they didn't ever, in any of the stuff that I saw, and even in the interview that I was listening to, they never actually said how they figured out the 4-digit combination. Just assume one of the guys was really good. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. To distract from the light sensor, what they did was they shut the lights off once they got the door unlocked, opened the door. They had the tallest guy walk in and cover the light sensor with a piece of tape, like electrical tape. Then they kicked the lights back on. They covered the heat sensor completely with like styrofoam to block anything. And like I said before, the other sensor, I think I misspoke. It would have been the motion sensor, was already sprayed with hairspray. So that one was already knocked out. So at this point, like, they have taken care of all of these super high tech impenetrable things that were supposed to stop really with ease, because they were only down there for a couple hours. So once they're in, they just start busting open all these lock boxes, and they're just grabbing as much stuff as they can. And it's just diamonds and, emeralds and rubies, and then people's actual personal stash, gold coins, gold bars, bonds, like all of this stuff, even stuff like Rolexes, anything that people would put in this lockbox. So there was actually so much stuff that they just left a bunch of it there and didn't even bother with the door. They just said, all right, leave that stuff. We got as much as we want. We're just going to walk out. So then on their way out, they stop at the office and steal the videotapes. So now there's no evidence. So at that point, they get back in their car and then they drive away, and essentially they're just, we did it. We're scot-free. It says they basically got away with 100 to 150 million, somewhere around there, in personal property, as well as just the diamonds and gems and whatnot. There's no like actual amount because they can never actually confirm anything. So the police get involved and they're like, oh man, there's zero evidence to go off of. And basically what happened to alert them, other than, the obvious, is one of the concierges goes down there and realizes the light is on for the vault room, calls out to the other concierge. Nobody answers. He walks up and sees the doors open. There's literally just, for lack of a better term, treasure just sitting in the middle of this vault. Calls the owner and says, all right, we got a problem. So the police come out. They have no evidence. So they're kind of looking around. They don't really know where to start. They're checking video cameras on different places, different areas of the streets. So keep that in mind. So after back to Leonardo, while those guys get away, they essentially split up the loot, equal ways, and then they all just split, and they're all supposed to just destroy their own bit of evidence and be done with it. Well, one of the guys that was driving the car, on his way to, he was just going to like drive off, go out into the forest and just dump everything. Well, he kind of had a panic attack and he just like threw some stuff out and just left it out in the woods. So at that point, he had told Leonardo, and Leonardo basically said like, hey, you know what? It's going to be just way too much work to try to pick all that stuff up. It's in the middle of the forest. Nobody cares. No one's ever going to find it. So fast forward, and there's a dude out walking his property, and he comes across this stuff, and it's like videotapes. It's just papers, and he sees it, and it's actually paperwork that was from like the vault. So it has whatever like the name of the building was and whatever information that would allude to it being part of the vault. So he calls the police and says, hey, I found this stuff, come check it out. The cops get it, and essentially it has enough evidence for them to kind of point back to Leonardo to investigate him. And then they go and check his business and realize, hey, this guy said he's been in business for 2 years. There's nothing in here. You know, it was an empty office building. He never even tried. So then it starts to make sense because they realize at one of the grocery stores, there is on camera, Leonardo on camera, the day of the day of the theft. And then in that pile, they actually found a receipt from the sandwich shop or grocery store or whatever you want to call it. So basically, the cops at this point, they start rounding these dudes up. And that's actually how they found out who did it. You know, they arrested them. They all got arrested. They all got charged. And they all got within like 5 to 10 years. But they never actually recovered barely any of the stuff that was stolen. So the whole big thing was Leonardo said, oh no, we were actually hired to do this by some random guy. There was another theory that, oh, it was done to commit insurance fraud. But a ton of this, like pretty much none of the stuff in the vault was actually covered by insurance, because once the insurance company saw that how flawed everything was with the vault security, they said they weren't even going to cover everything. At that point, it's just negligence. So Leonardo, you know, he gets arrested and he gets 10 years and he ends up getting out after like 5 years on parole. And they said, hey, you know, we're going to let you out on parole, but you have to pay back the assets of which you stole, which clearly he never did. So then he ends up getting arrested again and is required to finish out the rest of his sentence, in which he did. And then he was actually let out in 2017.
Wow.
And that's basically it. But it's kind of crazy that happened in 2003 and I never heard of that before.
Yeah. That reminds me of, did you see that movie Masterminds?
No.
With Zach Galifianakis? It's
No.
based on the Loomis Fargo heist. Similar, where they called it the Hillbilly Heist, but this guy that drove an armored truck robbed Loomis Fargo and Company. But yeah, so, and at the end of the movie, like, there was a barrel of money that got away, and it shows him like digging up the barrel. But like, I wonder if these guys still have any of that stuff, you know?
Oh, I'm sure they do. Like, if they don't, they have assets from it. You know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly.
Like, well, to me, it's just crazy. Like, the amount of high-tech security that was just essentially like thwarted by the most basic means. Oh, I just moved the magnet sensor. Oh, I covered the motion detector with hairspray. Like, stupid stuff like that. I put a piece of styrofoam over the heat sensor.
They went to Dollar Tree and got all their supplies.
Yeah, which is crazy because you could literally, like, with the exception of getting in the door, like, once you're in the door, that other stuff doesn't even matter.
Right.
Actually, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say real quick. I didn't mean to cut you off, Buddha, but I was going to say I'm amazed that the insurance company didn't pay out. I mean, granted, I understand it was there was obviously a breakdown in the security, but insurance company, usually that's what they do. They take a risk on that. I'm assuming it was Lloyd's of London or somebody like that. It wasn't your regular insurance company, but that's just amazing. They just didn't pay out.
Dan, you know a lot about insurance. Like, in situations where there's theft, like, more often than not, do you think that people are in on it when it comes to things like homeowner theft and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, certainly it happens, definitely happens, but the insurance industry, doesn't play any games. They investigate the hell out of everything. I mean, that's why they want to see receipts, they want to see boxes, they want any little bit of evidence they can to get to prove that it wasn't anything like that.
I remember talking to somebody once that their house was like destroyed in a fire, and when they went through the house after the fire with like the insurance or what remained of the house, they had to kind of like walk through and be like, this is where this was, and
right.
And kind of, give an idea and description of like, oh, this is where my TV was. Well, what kind of TV was it? Because all of their receipts and stuff were destroyed.
Right.
In the fire.
And
but yeah. But like,
Yeah, in
it's
those
just cra-
cases, as I say, in those cases, yeah, there's no, obviously the house is burned to the ground. You're not going to have receipts and shit. So yeah, in those cases, they just go by what you said you had. But I'm referring to more or less, hey, someone broke into my house and stole my, $20,000 wedding ring or something like that. Those are investigated totally differently.
right. Yeah, it's
So hang
crazy.
on. I misspoke. It actually says, due to the fact that the vault was uninsured, as the insurance company realized the security flaws, they would have never given an insurance policy.
Oh, it was uninsured.
So
Okay.
it was actually denied prior to this happening.
Wait, so everybody
Gotcha.
in that vault lost everything,
Yeah.
and it wasn't insured?
Wow.
But if they had personal insurance on the items, they could have claimed it there, not necessarily held the vault responsible.
Correct. If they had like a rider on their homeowners or something like that, yeah, they could easily have,
Can you put a rider on your homeowners if it's not in your home though?
absolutely. It's called a scheduled item. You schedule the item separately from the homeowners, like a wedding ring or some sort of super expensive item that
But even though it's
wedding
not
rings.
even though it's not in your home.
Right, it's not in your home because it's going with you. It can get stolen in Europe, somewhere, and it'll still have insurance. It's covered across the all around the world. It doesn't have to be in
I
your
find
house.
that
It's a schedule.
That's such a bizarre concept. Like you're essentially entrusting it to somewhere else that just doesn't. I wonder, like, if they thought it was insured.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but like and at that point, like you're the families and you lose all this stuff. At this point, they don't have any money really to begin with, or they're not going to have any assets left to take. So it's like trying to squeeze blood out of a turnip.
Right.
I mean, they had talked about like some of this stuff was a rather large Jewish community, so they said there was people that had like stuff handed down, like what the fuck's the word? I'm like not antiques, but stuff from like relatives that were in the Holocaust and stuff like that. That just is clearly much more sentimental value that than monetary. Like
Right.
Like that's why I mentioned like the Rolex. Like these dudes who went through hell and then they got something passed from their grandfather or grandmother or whatever, and that's just gone.
It sucks.
All right, but yeah, you never heard of the Loomis Fargo heist?
No, I've never seen that.
Yeah, the movie was funny. It was kind of like a comedy, loosely based on the story. But yeah, at the movie they show him pulling a barrel of money out of the water. I don't know what happened to that other $2 million that was missing. But yeah, funny movie. You should check it out. All right, so kicking things over this way. Here, have either of you guys ever heard of the Isdal woman or Isdal woman? I think it's Isdal.
I have not.
All right, so this story, Dan, you're gonna love this one. It goes all the way back into the 70s.
Ooh, favorite decade.
There you go. So back in November of 1970, a man with his two young daughters were hiking in the foothills of the north face of Ulkrin, known as the Isdalen or Ice Valley. It was also nicknamed the Ice Valley because there had been suicides there and also accidental deaths due to hiking. Noting an unusual burning smell, one of the daughters located a charred body of a woman located among some scree. This is all from Wikipedia, by the way, so I'm kind of...
I actually have heard this story before.
So, yeah, long story short, the woman... the Bergen police responded and launched an investigation. And so, examining the site, police noticed that the woman's her hands were like clenched up by her torso, and she was also near a campfire. The front of her body and her clothes had been really severely burned. Also located by the body were an empty bottle of St. Halyard liqueur, 2 plastic water bottles, a plastic passport container, some rubber boots, wooden jumper, a scarf, nylon stockings, umbrella, matchbox, purse, earrings, watch, and a ring. Around the body were also traces of burned paper. All identifying marks and labels on these items had been removed or rubbed off. 3 days later, also, investigators found a suitcase at the Bergen railway station that had belonged to the woman. And also, in the lining of that, they found 100 Deutschmark notes, equivalent to roughly $130 in U.S. currency for 1970. Among other items they found were shoes, wigs, makeup, eczema cream, 135 Norwegian kroner, Belgian, British, and Swiss coins, maps, timetables, a pair of glasses with non-prescription lenses, kind of weird, sunglasses with partial fingerprints that match the body, cosmetics, and a notepad. As with the body, any possible identifying information had been removed. So, an autopsy concluded that the woman had died from a combination of incapacitation and poisoning by carbon monoxide. Soot was found in her lungs and indicated that she was alive as she had burned. Analysis of her blood and stomach showed that she had consumed between 50 and 70 feminine brand sleeping pills, and found next to her body were a further 12 sleeping pills. At autopsy, her teeth and jaw were removed due to her unique gold-filling dental work, and tissue samples of her organs were taken as well. Police then launched an appeal for information in the Norwegian media. Last time she was seen alive was on November 23rd when she checked out of a hotel. Noted that it was called Hotel Hordheim. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. We really struggle with all the pronunciations stuff.
Especially tonight.
Yeah, I know. Tongue-tied. Anyway, hotel staff told police that she was a good-looking woman and was roughly 5 feet 4 inches tall, dark brown hair, small brown eyes. Basically, they had also said that she had kept to herself, and she also smelled of garlic, was one of the other things they had mentioned. Also, let's see here. So, let's see if there's any other things right here. Let's see. Police were able to decode the notepad entries and determine that they indicated the dates and places the woman had visited. As a result, based on handwritten check-in forms, the police determined that the Isdal woman had traveled around Norway and Europe, mainly Paris, with at least 8 fake passports and aliases. So some theories on this person. She was a spy during the Cold War era, investigating missiles. Let's see. The declassification records from Norwegian Armed Forces also revealed that many of the woman's movements seemed to correspond with top secret trials of the Penguin missile. Also, a fisherman is also reported to have recognized this woman while observing military movements in Stavanger. So, just an interesting story. Again, another person with not really an identity or can't be traced back. I know we talked about the one lady a couple weeks ago who had multiple identities, and so, I just I can't imagine living life going around from place to place and nobody really ever knowing who you are.
That'd be amazing.
A non-subscription glasses, a prescription rather. I can't talk today, man.
Nobody
Holy
can. I don't know.
Wow.
Thursdays by the end of the week, I am gassed out. Like I just
me
can't.
too.
My attention span, my tongue, everything's tied. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, that's all right. But that's a giveaway of obviously of someone that's trying to put together different disguises. I mean, who wears glasses like that unless they need them? You know, I mean, nowadays hipsters do, but you don't wear glasses unless you need them. And those were non-prescription. So that tells me that she was using just definitely different disguises.
Yeah, her clothes, and also she had wigs too. So, it's a good point. I believe in 2016, an artist also rendered some new pictures of her. So if you do search the Isdal woman, you'll find those up-to-date sketches. But
Was
yeah,
she older?
No, middle-aged woman.
Okay.
But yeah, thought to be a spy. But again, so also on February 5th, 1971, the woman was given a Catholic burial, attended by 16 members of the Bergen police force. She was buried in a zinc coffin to both preserve her remains and for ease of disinterment. Her ceremony was also photographed in case relatives came forward at a later date. But again, nobody has claimed to know or be affiliated with this person.
They actually show a picture of her body too.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah, that's a super weird concept. Like why would they want to preserve her body if they're gonna bury her?
well, I mean, the right thing to do, I guess, would be to bury a body, and then, but you also have to think, like, what if they are able to get a lead, or, and you have to think at that time, keeping
Yeah, but
data.
You're talking
All
about
data
the
was kept by
70s.
hand, really. I mean, there
The
was
70s had no DNA.
Yeah,
So
but that's
what were they doing?
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so there was no way to really. I mean, all record keeping and data collection was pretty much done by hand. So, in the event that they needed to get her body back, I think putting her in a coffin like that and preserving it, was probably the best call.
I don't
Nowadays-
know. That shit's weird.
Nowadays, you could just
that's
take
kind of weird.
Nowadays you take a sample and you can keep all the DNA and data on a server somewhere far away from where even you're doing the research.
It's also super weird, like, kind of off topic. It's super weird when people, like, do you remember the whole thing that happened when Casey Kasem died? And, like, his kids wanted his body back, but then, like, his wife at the time said no. And I think
Yeah, it was like, what was it, like almost like 60 or 70 days that he was not buried?
it was something bizarre. And, like, didn't he die in Europe, or he died in the US and they wanted it to Europe? It was one of those two. I don't remember which one it was, but, like, you're literally talking about a body that has been dead that you're preserving for 2-3 months just to pick a spot where you're going to put it in the ground. Like, that is so weird.
Right.
I mean, I know everybody has, like, their own beliefs with whatever your ceremonial, whether you get someone cremated or you bury them or whatever else other people do. But, like, I mean, dude, the amount of money that you're spending for something so dumb.
Dude, 6 months he was. I just looked it up. It said, I put, how long was Casey Kasem dead before he was buried? 6 months he was on ice.
So, like,
I never
do they
heard that.
literally just keep them in, like, a meat locker? Like, is that what they
yeah.
do?
Yeah, I mean, you've got it.
Yeah.
I mean, just like your ground beef and hamburger and steaks and stuff. I mean, as terrible as that sounds, I'm sure that's probably what they did. They just kept it at a temperature to basically stop decomposition.
Well,
Yeah,
was
the
it already,
coroner
like,
has.
embalmed and everything? Like, had that already been done?
Well, I'm sure they could have, but again, I think embalming is just a temporary solution.
No, that's what. Yeah, but if you just refrigerate meat, it's still going to go bad if it's already dead.
Yeah,
You know
but
what I
at a
mean?
certain point, it stops. I mean, think about how long you keep hamburger meat in the freezer for before you cook it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. If you legitimately froze it, it'd
Yeah.
be different.
To the point where he's not frostbitten or,
Freezer burned.
freezer burned. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That's just super weird. Like, no, I want that body back. And they're like, no, I want that body back. Like,
I had no
I mean, I
idea
know
that
it-
that happened with him.
yeah, it was his wife and his kids, wasn't it? His daughter or something?
I know it was something to do with the family and its estate. Let's see. A rep for the legend's daughter confirmed that he was buried by his wife, Jean, in Norway last week without consulting his children. So,
yeah, just super weird situation.
So, yeah. But 6 months he was frozen for. Frozen. So.
Which, like, is even more bizarre because so many people, like I said, depending on your beliefs or whatever you do, like, that's closure for you.
Right.
You know, so you're literally prolonging this, like, you know, your dad or your husband, you know, whichever way you look at it, has passed away, and you can't even get the closure 6 months later when you're literally just waiting to do the thing that will give you closure. It's not like his body's missing and they can't find him and he might still be alive and you don't know, and every night you're hoping you're going to get better news. No, like, this dude is dead, been dead for 6 months, and you're still like, is today the day that we're going to do this thing that we should have did 6 months ago?
Right.
And to me, boy, I'll tell you, that is just, I never knew that even happened with him, but that, even between all that other stuff, it's just disrespectful to him as his body, just leaving it there and, you know, in a freezer. It's disrespectful. And it's like, you would think that most normal people be like, look, I don't agree with this. You don't agree with this. Let's come to a compromise. Let's just get this over with, you know, not just prolong it like that.
People get crazy after loved ones die. I mean, I had a buddy tell me a story where a family stopped talking to each other.
Oh, yeah.
And it was over a Toyota Tercel. You know, like,
Oh, wow.
who got the car after Grandma died? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
God, who would want it?
but
It wasn't it more so to do with his actual estate though? Like, that was part of settling the estate. It wasn't like literally just where are you going to bury him?
I'm assuming
yeah,
probably.
but let's see. It says the family's not. I mean, I don't know. Like, go on forever reading this stuff. You know, you bring up this point of like people having like, this guy was on ice for 6 months, but like, have you ever seen any of these photos of like really strange wakes and funerals?
Yeah, like where they like dress him up in the corner and then they like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a custom though. That's just a thing.
No,
Or,
man.
Like
That's
the
more
one where
recent.
the dudes dance with the coffins.
No, there was, well, that I saw that, but like there was like one from Pittsburgh where this guy was dead and they propped him up in his favorite Steelers chair. I saw one where
that one.
there was one where a guy was on a motorcycle, like, and so he was propped up on his motorcycle. There was one where a kid, like, I think it was like a younger guy or whatnot, was a video gamer and they propped him up in front of a TV. But like, I mean, how bizarre, you know?
Did they have somebody on the other end on the headset saying, "Are you still there?"
I mean, but like, I know that must have been that person's last request, but at the same time, you know, you go to a wake and you think you're going to see somebody, you know, in a casket, whatnot, and then you see him, like, there was one where a guy was in a kayak, like, yeah.
Don't
Was he
they
in the
bury
water?
them most of the time?
No, I think they end up I think sometimes they're just cremated afterwards or whatnot, or maybe they get a coffin. I don't know.
I think the guy in the bike, I thought they buried him somehow in his bike. On his bike, not in his bike, but on his bike.
There was a dude that was buried like in his car. It was like an old Cadillac or something.
I remember hearing that one. Yep.
You know, to be honest, I think the whole concept of having a wake, like everybody dress up and be sad as fuck and then stare at this dead body, is fucking weird. Like, it's bizarre, and I don't know how that became an accepted like tradition or thing to do, because I don't know about you guys, like we've all been to enough fucking wakes and we're only in our 30s, or, you know, I'm only in my 30s. Like, that's fucking, it's just super weird to me. And just to see how much just sadness and shit comes from that. Like, dude, when I die, I want to be I've told Natalie this. I want to be cremated fucking right away and then just have a fucking party. I don't want to have like a fucking everybody all sad as shit, fucking thinking about dumb shit. Like, oh, this sucks. I'm so sad. I was like, fucking
play some Blink 182.
Why would you do that?
No, man, some loudness.
There you go. fucking loudness. No, but you know what I mean? Like, just like change the atmosphere, man. Be happy
Right.
about what you guys did, not sad at what you're losing.
I can speak definitely with experience over you guys on this, unfortunately. But with losing both of my parents, I can tell you right off the bat that you want to move on. I know for me, thankfully, neither my mom or dad, they literally just like you, Buddha. My mom, I do not want to be buried in the ground. Cremate me. Do not make a big deal about it. Move on with life. And that's exactly what I did. And you don't want to dwell on it. And you're so right about that. That adds such a layer of depression to an already depressing state to have a wake. When you move on, you can dwell on it, or you can not dwell, but you can I can't think of the word, but you can think about it in your own way. You can think about it in your own time in privacy, but you don't have to, like you said, add on to it and put a wake together and have all these people. I mean, you described it perfectly. It's a depressing thing.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, though, you have to think, okay, so those are wishes by the individual. Sometimes people don't get closure, and I know that might be a selfish thing to the living, but it gives people an opportunity to have closure. I mean, back in the turn of the century, people used to take pictures with, family pictures with the deceased member. So,
Which they still do.
I mean, yeah, I think it's... the more time goes on, I think
the lady I bought my house from had pictures in the casket. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
yeah, I do remember that. Yep,
dude.
Yep.
Dan was telling me about on the way over to the restaurant the other night that he has a picture of a ghost in your house.
I had one. Remember that, Buddha?
No.
Tell him about the picture.
Remember when you were it was like the second or third day, like I had just saw the house for the first time, and your basement was completely gutted. You had taken out
Which, by the way, I'm just going to chime in here real quick. Sorry. But we were talking about your uncanny ability to see fourth dimensionally, and the way that, like, when you bought that house, I walked in, I'm like, what the fuck did you just buy?
Dude, man,
but then I
said the same thing.
But then, like, literally, like a year later, I'm like, oh my God, this house is beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, that's fine. I went down there and I was just taking some photos of everything and just taking a few photos. I don't know why I even took a photo of the basement, but I took a photo with my phone, and when I got home, it looked like and I swear I sent it to you, Buddha. I know I had sent it to you, but it would look like a old lady floating above the floor, like in the dark corner of the basement. It might have just been the way the lighting was or whatever, but it looked like a freaking stereotypical of what you see a ghost looking like. You don't remember anything about that?
No, are you? I don't think you did, because I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that.
Oh, I absolutely did. I showed.
But you said it was like a silhouette kind of cloud, wasn't it?
It was like a silhouette cloud of an old lady with looked like old lady with a robe on. But you couldn't see a face or nothing. It just was you ever see that photo, John? Like it's an ancient photo. It shows a misty looking woman walking down steps. It's an old photo from like the 1920s.
No.
Okay, well, it's a famous photo of some castle, but anyway, that's exactly what the photo reminded me of. And I showed other people the photo, and they said, "Yeah, that looks really strange." And then the reason I thought about it more though, Buddha, was because you had told me Taco was over the one day, and he saw some weird shit in your house the one day, and you had some like stuff maneuvering around, and that's what made me think of it. So
naturally, you had a cool photo, and you got rid of it.
I sent it to you.
Yeah, but I mean, crap, I've got photos on my phone from 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's all stored in the cloud. You don't have it still?
No, I didn't. I never even used the cloud, man. I mean, this was off the. I don't know what the hell I even did with it. You know what happened? Hey,
it's on my Motorola Razr.
You know what happened? That phone, it never went to the cloud, but that phone I took the photo with, like 4 months later, bricked on me, and I lost everything on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I know I showed it to Buddha. I thought I sent it to him. Maybe I just showed it to him.
I probably just talked a bunch of shit about it and said it looks stupid.
Yeah, probably.
You might have. Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's the worst when you lose like all your stuff. I remember one year we got back from Florida, and I had all these pictures from our trip and stuff on there. And my phone was acting weird, and so I'm like, oh, let me just do a reset. And I thought that I would be able to keep all my stuff, and I lost everything. It was terrible. It was like I had, pictures from the beach and stuff and the trip, and man, that was such a bummer.
I do have one story though that I could say real quick, unless you want to finish it up. But
go ahead, go for it.
This has nothing to do with me, but you guys know Jared, obviously. So Jared told me this story that happened. I was not there for this, but this guy does not lie about anything. I mean, I believe him, and there was other people were there that saw this. So the near Riverview, they got the Cuyahoga Trail that you can walk. Have you guys either been on that trail anytime recently?
Yeah.
Over in Brecksville?
Well, it depends how far out you're talking.
Near Helltown, right?
A little bit past Helltown. There's an area where you walk, when you're on the trail, you walk under a railroad where you go through this little tunnel. And you walk through there. You've probably been through it before. But anyway, it's not cars or nothing. It's just a regular trail. You can bike it or walk it. So Jared, his one friend, and his sister were walking. They used to do a lot of night hikes, and they were walking at like 1:30 in the morning down this trail, and it was kind of a foggy night. Typical, they were listening to creepypastas on their phone to add to the experience. So anyway, they go down and they go under this bridge, this little tiny tunnel bridge where the railroad track is on top. And it's not that high of a drop. I mean, it's the train is only maybe 15 feet up where the train tracks are when you go under this tunnel. So they go under the tunnel. They go maybe, he describes it like 4 minutes maybe after they pass it, 5 minutes walking. And they hear a weird sounding noise. Like they thought it was maybe a coyote or some kind of animal making a really strange noise. They couldn't even figure out what it was. But they said, the hell with it, let's just turn the hell around here. Well, when they walk past, they go back. Well, it's only been about 4 minutes since they went over to that tunnel. They go back up to the tunnel. Now, again, they're using flashlights because it's dark out. It's foggy. And he tells me that in the middle of the trail, there are two shoes that look like kids' shoes, little kids' shoes, that are sitting right in the middle of the trail. And they are perfectly set as if like as if somebody standing there. I'm not talking about just two shoes that were thrown all over the place. They're like side by side right next to each other. They didn't hear anybody. They didn't see anybody. Whoever would have done this, if somebody was trying to play a trick on them, they would have had to immediately run away very quickly. And once they saw that, they really hightailed it. His buddy pulled out he had a taser. They had a taser ready because they really got the hell out of there then. But this story, he told me this happened like in 2013, so this isn't recent. But that story is, I mean, I tried, and I even try, you know how I'm the biggest skeptic in the world. I tried to figure, okay, there's got to be a logical explanation. Someone was trying to, but if someone's trying to play a trick on someone, they're not expecting them to be walking in the middle of the woods at 2:00 in the morning to play a trick on them to do that. And not only that, but how would the person even know that they were going to turn around and come back? The story has so many questions. There's no answers to it. There's just nothing but questions. And I thought it was the most bizarre story. And I believe him because all three of the people have told me separately that the story happened. It wasn't, just him just making it up. But a really weird story. And nothing ever happened. They got out of there and that was it. But how the hell do you explain that?
Yeah, but what if they had just missed something and, they were looking for things that weren't actually there, Well, in this trail, you would according to the way they described it, the shoes were in the middle of the trail. There's no way all three of them would have had their flashlights on and not seen a pair of shoes sitting there when they first walked past. It was right in the middle of the trail, like in the middle of the trail. He said there's no way they could have missed that. And it was right there when they came back and turned around 4 minutes later. And they left the shoes there then, I'm guessing?
Oh, yeah, they didn't touch it. They got the hell out of there when they saw that.
They sold them to that guy that messaged you about the shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But just a creepy story, man. I mean, and I believe him because...
No, yeah, I got it. You believe him?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I believe Jared. I mean, the guy does not... He just doesn't lie. And I mean, it's not a story I mean, it sounds so unbelievable. It sounds made up, but...
Yeah. So, well, I'm going to kick it over this way. Let's see here. All right. Well, let's land this plane for this week. Let's see. Next Thursday, second week of March. I can't believe it's already March already. This year's going by so fast.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully we'll be back to some bit of normalcy, but we'll still continue to do this every Thursday night at 8 p.m. And if you're listening to this on a replay, feel free to tune in live and contribute. That's the whole idea of doing it live. And so we're trying to go with a little bit more of a raw approach as to, opposed to something highly produced. That way we can get participation. So if you get a chance to tune in live at 8 o'clock on Thursday night, that'd be great. Do you guys have anything?
No, per usual, just let us know what you like, what you don't like. If it sucks, just let us know either way.
All right.
Hit that like button.
Well, for Dan Rady, Steve Gibson, and everyone else in the Type 3 TV Echosphere, this is John Malinsky from Mistake on the Lake. Over and out.